Regional security is very important. It matters to everyone across the globe. Unrest in one specific area can unfortunately affect many others. Peace and stability in one region often support wider global stability. We watch these complex situations very closely. It is truly a connected world we live in. These significant problems are rarely isolated incidents. They demand our focused attention and understanding. When a particular region is unstable, the problems tend to spread. Refugees may be forced to flee their homes. They desperately seek safety in other neighboring countries. National economies can suffer greatly from such turmoil. Critical trade routes often get disrupted by conflict. Extremist groups can find safe places to operate. They frequently use the surrounding chaos to grow stronger and expand their influence. This creates further danger. Today, on May 29, 2025, we look at two deeply troubled regions. Syria and Iraq continue to face ongoing difficult issues. Burkina Faso in West Africa also sees intense escalating conflict. Comparing these distinct situations helps us to understand better. We can see how different kinds of crises unfold over time. Each region has its own unique and urgent challenges. These challenges affect millions of ordinary people. It is crucial to examine these conflicts. The world faces many complex problems right now. We focus now on these specific areas of concern. Our primary goal is to try and assess the current pain. We want to know where life is harder for people today. Where is the immediate danger most pressing for innocent civilians? Understanding this is key to addressing the suffering. In Syria, political and military control is still divided. President Bashar al-Assad's government holds key central and southern areas. Turkish-backed forces are present in parts of the north. The Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, or SDF, control much of the northeast. The Idlib province remains a volatile and dangerous zone. Small ISIS cells still operate quietly in remote areas. They launch sporadic attacks when they can. The devastating war is not truly over for many Syrians. Iraq's central government officially controls major cities like Baghdad. Baghdad serves as the center of federal power and administration. However, various armed militias are extremely influential. They sometimes challenge the authority of the state. Remnants of ISIS continue to hide in rural, hard-to-reach spots. They are notably active in provinces like Anbar and Nineveh. Persistent political disagreements among factions continue to slow national progress towards lasting stability. The overall level of violence is lower than its peak some years ago, but it certainly has not disappeared completely from daily life. Targeted killings and assassinations still unfortunately occur. Improvised explosive devices, or IEDs, remain a persistent threat. Millions of people are still displaced from their original homes. Government services and infrastructure are generally better in the cities. Rural areas often have a much weaker state presence and fewer resources. Many outside countries are involved in this complex region. Iran maintains strong influence in both Syria and Iraq. The United States keeps some military troops stationed there. They support Iraqi security forces and also the SDF in Syria. Russia firmly backs the Assad regime in Damascus. Turkey is actively involved in operations in northern Syria. Regional powers often pursue their own strategic interests, adding layers to the conflicts. Burkina Faso currently faces a terrible and escalating security crisis. Various jihadist groups are rapidly gaining more ground. Some of these groups are linked to Al-Qaeda. Others have pledged allegiance to ISIS. They now effectively control large parts of the country's territory. This control is concentrated mainly in the northern and eastern regions. The central government's effective reach is shrinking very fast. This is a grave concern for the population. The government's authority is extremely limited in many areas. It remains strongest in some of the larger provincial towns. Ouagadougou, the nation's capital, is still held by government forces. But vast rural areas are often effectively abandoned by the state. State security forces cannot operate there safely or consistently. Providing basic security for citizens is a huge ongoing challenge. Basic public services like healthcare and education are also severely lacking in these zones. Violence against ordinary people is currently at a very high level. Attacks on undefended villages are tragically common occurrences. National security forces are also frequently targeted by militants. A huge number of people have been forced to flee their homes. Millions of Burkinabe citizens now need urgent food aid. The overall humanitarian situation is desperate for so many. It appears to be getting worse with each passing day. Jihadist fighters actively try to isolate vulnerable communities. They cut major roads and destroy bridges to hinder movement. Their aim is often to supplant the existing government structures. International help and support have become complicated. Recent military coups in the country have strained partnerships with allies. The regional body ECOWAS is trying to help coordinate a response, but the task is immense for Burkina Faso and its neighbors. Governments have clearly lost control over territory in both regions. However, Burkina Faso's territorial losses are more recent. These losses are also happening very quickly right now. Large areas have fallen from effective state control in a short time. In Syria and Iraq, the front lines are somewhat more established and static. Though these areas are still extremely dangerous and actively contested on a daily basis by various actors, major cities in Syria and Iraq generally offer some degree of safety. Government or dominant factional control is stronger in these urban centers, but even these cities are not entirely without significant risk. In Burkina Faso, by contrast, even larger provincial towns feel besieged. Rural areas in all these countries are extremely perilous for inhabitants. Daily life is an immense struggle for survival for many ordinary people caught in the crossfire. Casualties from violence are tragically high in both compared regions. Burkina Faso, however, is seeing rapidly rising numbers of deaths and injuries. Displacement is massive relative to its total population size. The sheer speed of this societal decline is deeply alarming. Syria and Iraq have immense numbers of long-term displaced people, but the intensity of new, large-scale violence causing mass casualties seems higher now in Burkina Faso. So, which region is truly worse off today, in May 2025? Weighing all factors, Burkina Faso's current situation appears more acutely dire. The quick and ongoing territorial losses are stark and worrying. The encirclement and siege of towns is terrifying for residents. The scale of new displacement is huge for a country of its size. International support also seems less certain and more fragmented there. The crisis in Burkina Faso is unfortunately accelerating much faster right now.